How do armed conflict types impact IHL rules? Imagine a world where rules of war change depending on who is fighting and where. That's exactly what international humanitarian law does. It adjusts based on the kind of conflict happening. When you hear about wars between countries, that's called an international armed conflict. It involves two or more states fighting each other. In these situations, the Geneva Conventions and their additional protocols come into full effect. They set clear rules on how to treat prisoners of war, protect civilians, and conduct hostilities. For example, Common Article 2 of the Geneva Conventions applies here, offering detailed protections for everyone not actively fighting. This includes civilians, medical workers, and aid providers. Now, not all conflicts are between countries. When fighting happens within a single country, involving government forces and non-state armed groups, it's called a non-international armed conflict. These are often more complex and less predictable. The Geneva Conventions still apply, but only through Common Article 3 and Additional Protocol 2. These rules are simpler and less detailed but still protect people from torture, ensure humane treatment, and safeguard civilians from harm. The difference between these conflict types influences what protections civilians and fighters get. In international conflicts, prisoners of war can be recognized and given specific rights. But in non-international conflicts, these protections are limited. The principle of distinction is vital in both types. It requires parties to tell apart civilians from combatants. But in non-international conflicts, this can be harder because armed groups often blend into civilian populations. Protection of civilians is a core part of IHL. Civilians should never be targeted or harmed intentionally. But if a civilian takes a direct part in hostilities, they lose some protections. This means if a civilian actively fights or supports the fighting, they can be considered a legitimate target. This rule helps prevent civilians from being punished for supporting the conflict indirectly. The rules about how wars are fought also differ. International conflicts regulate the means and methods of warfare more strictly to avoid unnecessary suffering. Attacks on hospitals, aid workers, or civilians are serious violations, no matter the conflict type. These rules help guide how humanitarian aid is delivered and how legal accountability is enforced. War crimes committed in either type of conflict can lead to prosecution by international courts. In the end, the kind of conflict shapes which rules apply, how protections are given, and what legal actions can be taken. Despite differences, the main goal remains the same: to reduce suffering, protect those not fighting, and keep human dignity intact during war.